Let's jump straight into it here on the Bitcoin hash rate chart we have here on bitcoinmagazinepro.com. Now what we can see alongside the pretty negative price action we've experienced over the past couple of months, if we just zoom in onto the Bitcoin network hash rate, the total computational output from the miners securing the network and fighting for that block subsidy, we can see that this has been in a pretty steady downtrend since about October 18th and has actually been falling at a pretty rapid rate. Especially if we zoom out, we can see this has been on a pretty much non-stop trend to the upside. But of course, recently, this has caused a little bit of, I don't want to say panic, but if we look at the hash ribbons indicator, which is looking at the 30-day moving average of this hash rate, this blue line here, and the 60-day or 2-month moving average of this hash rate, this purple line, we can see when this longer moving average crosses above the short-term, faster, more reactive moving average, it gives us this minor capitulation event, indicated by these red shaded areas on the background. Now what we can see, even though this is historically seen as a bit of a bearish instance, which I guess it kind of is, if we're seeing less and less miners willing to commit computational power to the network, they're less bullish, they're less optimistic, and their profit margins are just too slim to continue operating at the same output as they previously were. That's obviously not great, but we can see these periods of capitulation are actually usually fairly good areas to accumulate Bitcoin. Now, I will say not necessarily immediately. If we look back to here in 2018, we could see that this period of capitulation actually signaled the start of about a 50% retracement. Similar story up here as well in 2021 when we just broke to new all-time highs, almost at this triple peak divergence. We could see the miners capitulated, and of course this may have been due to some external factors as well, due to bans in China and whatnot, but we can see historically it doesn't necessarily mean that bullish price action is about to follow, but if we just, for example, zoom in on this cycle, we can see the most recent instance of this minor capitulation was the 25th of June of this year when the Bitcoin price was around $107,000, and pretty much immediately from that point we rallied to new highs over 17% to about $123,000, $124,000, may have wicked even slightly higher than that. So the fact that we're seeing this minor capitulation isn't necessarily a bullish thing or an immediately bearish thing, but one thing that is incredibly bullish with an almost 100% strike rate is when we see this 30-day cross back above the 60-day moving average, giving us a hash ribbons buy signal. When the background shading on this chart goes to white once again, we can see almost every single time this has occurred, it has resulted in a pretty much immediate bullish price appreciation period for Bitcoin. The only notable example where this wasn't the case was here in 2022, where we actually continued to go lower after that. And I guess you could kind of argue the same for here in 2024, but considering the next capitulation was very minor and then we rallied to new all-time highs, we can say it's still, you know, a pretty accurate and pretty good, reliable signal. But I think this story of miners to potentially capitulating goes a little bit deeper than purely looking at the hash rate and purely using this as potentially a buy or accumulation signal. If we look at the Puell multiple, which is looking at the daily USD earnings for miners, taking into account not only the block subsidy, but fees as well, and then comparing that to a 365-day moving average of this value to essentially gauge whether they're earning more or less than their previous yearly average, we can see that this recently collapsed to about 0.67, which indicates they were only earning about 2/3 of what they had done in the previous year. Now, one other interesting thing when you look at this chart is as Bitcoin has grown, as with most charts, we can see that there's this almost contraction in the data. We can see that the peaks aren't quite as extreme, but the bottoms are also moving to the upside as well. Now, this is great if you are a miner. It's a little bit more predictable in the market. Of course, you want to be up here in these big upper regions where you're earning considerably more than average, but more than that, you definitely don't want to be in these regions down here. So stability in mining is great. But one thing that I think this cycle in particular has outlined more than ever before, and especially as the narrative around Bitcoin has evolved, well, we've gone from this electronic peer-to-peer currency into more of this store of value asset, which I don't necessarily inherently think is a bad thing for Bitcoin. But when you also consider that Bitcoin is an evolving, dynamic piece of technology, and we don't ideally want to be paying substantial amounts to actually use Bitcoin on chain, we've seen the fees for actually transacting on Bitcoin come down as well. So both of those in unison, less people using Bitcoin for transactions and lower fees, is resulting in fewer and fewer or lesser and lesser revenue in terms of fees for these miners. If I just go to the miner revenue purely from fees chart we have here on bitcoinmagazinepro.com, we can see that this has been in a pretty much long-term downtrend of this entire cycle. Of course, we're loading a bit slow as I film this now. But what we can do while that is loading is if I go over to TradingView here, what we can see looking at this chart, which might outline it a little bit better, to be honest, rather than looking at it in a BTC denominated term, which is what we provide on site, if we go into a USD denominated term and put this to fees, what we can see is if I turn it off logarithmic, as I said, it's practically non-existent at the minute. If I change this, so rather than just looking at the fees, because of course the block subsidy at 3.125 Bitcoin is taking up a substantial amount of this revenue, but if I take the total miner earnings USD denominated, we can see that the peak we set in this cycle is significantly lower than 3 separate peaks we had in the previous cycle, and pretty much in line with what we set in 2017. Now again, I don't necessarily think that this is a bad thing. We can see that as I film this is around $45 million, so it's not like they're struggling to make any profit or struggling to get by, etc. But I think in general, for a long-term macro viewpoint on Bitcoin, the fact that we are seeing lesser and lesser people using Bitcoin, which again, I don't inherently think is a bad thing. Along with that, we're seeing technological improvements resulting in fees decreasing. Again, a good thing. Along with that, we're seeing a greater adoption of layer 2 solutions like the Lightning Network, which for everyday transactions makes a lot more sense. But this block subsidy is decreasing by 50% every single year. Now, of course, I'm macro bullish on Bitcoin, but for miner revenue to remain at around these levels, Bitcoin needs to double reliably every 4 years. Now, is that possible? Of course. Is it probable? Indefinitely? I think that's a bit of a long shot. We don't have to go too far into the future before we're getting into tens of millions of dollars per Bitcoin to just maintain the current level of miner revenue. So again, is this inherently a bad thing? Well, we can see due to the parabolic rise in hash rate over recent years, it's kind of priced out individual retail everyday miners. And these are pretty much now exclusively blocks mined by big institutions, big, in many cases, public companies. So if we actually look at the Bitcoin mining pool comparison, we can see just looking at the past 3 days, just 2 mining pools are accounting for about 47% of the total hash rate. Now, if you were to look at this from years and years ago, when the market was, or the network I should say, was incredibly decentralized in terms of computational power output, this kind of trend towards mining centralization isn't necessarily the most promising thing to see, especially when we look at the mining pool comparison in terms of hash rate by countries. We can see that China being at around 13.5% and the US, at around 30.6% and China at 47% is also reducing the decentralization, not only by pools, because there's some game theory involved here, that, if one pool or 2 pools cumulatively surpassed 51% and were becoming a bit of a security risk, then you could just kind of distribute that hash rate. But if we're seeing countries potentially surpassing that 51%, especially certain countries, without getting too political, then I guess it does become a little bit of a risk to Bitcoin, especially if there's no incentives for miners in terms of fee revenue increasing, and if we do see a stagnation in the Bitcoin price action, which is inevitable at some point, to the point where we're not seeing a reliable doubling in the Bitcoin price to provide sufficient revenue just from block subsidy, it gets to a point where we need to start thinking long term, not just in the next kind of 5 years, 10 years, couple halving events, but if we're thinking 20, 30, 50 years into the future, is this currently the best economic system, or do we need to provide further incentives for Bitcoin miners? It's an interesting topic, something I'm going to definitely be discussing more going forward. I don't think that this is inherently meant to be bearish, but I think if we want Bitcoin to prosper and survive and fulfill its potential, then we need to look at these potential issues that we're going to face further down the line and start planning for them today. But ultimately, just looking at the mining capitulation we're currently seeing, if anything, this points towards opportunity, especially once we see this period of capitulation end. If we are to draw trend lines on this Puell multiple, we can see again that this is also maybe pointing towards maybe finding a local bottom in miner revenue, which subsequently is influenced by the Bitcoin price action. So short term, I think this is actually a good area to look to accumulate some discounted BTC. Like we could see, maybe not immediately due to the fact that the hash ribbon's capitulation signal when this turns red doesn't inherently mean we're immediately about to have a big bullish reaction in the price. But usually we can see, just looking at this chart, it's usually not a bad area to just start slowly scaling in. So just to summarize, Bitcoin miners are capitulating, and looking at the hash rate and then subsequently the hash ribbons chart, we can see that this declining computational power or output from the network's miners is probably massively influenced by the declining price action that we've seen, especially given the fact that hash rate peaked on October 18th, and since that point we are down fairly noticeably. But one thing that we can see looking at these periods of miner capitulation is that historically they've actually been pretty good times to accumulate some discounted BTC, and especially once we get one of those hash ribbons buy signals when that 30-day crosses back above that 60-day, it gives us a fairly good indication, a reliable one if history is anything to go by, that miners are getting a little bit more bullish. Maybe there's more capital ready to rotate into mining equipment, maybe more capital willing to rotate into Bitcoin itself, maybe less Bitcoin from a supply and demand economics perspective is hitting the open market because miners maybe don't have to be as frugal when it comes to their profit margins. Maybe they don't have to sell Bitcoin as aggressively just to stay afloat. So I think right now, along with some other confluence signals that we're seeing, points towards Bitcoin being at a discount. But zooming out, I think there's a slightly deeper, concerning underlying issue derived from this kind of lack of revenue from miners. As I said, it's not something that we need to worry about immediately, but if we want Bitcoin to fulfill its potential and be the asset we all really want it to be, then we need to start having these conversations. When we look at miner revenue, not just denominated in BTC terms, but also in USD, we've not reached the highs that we've set in previous cycles. Now, I doubt many miners really anticipating this. I imagine loads of these, especially public companies, who I guess are also rotating and providing computational power to AI and other means of revenue. But looking at Bitcoin purely, we can see that I imagine they were expecting to make a little bit more this cycle. And the fact that we haven't surpassed the previous cycle in terms of USD denominated income for miners is probably a little concerning to them. And I think that this trend, unfortunately, has the potential to continue and maybe even get a little bit more substantial and notable, given the fact that we're not seeing as many transactions happening on chain. And when they do happen, they're occurring with much lower fees. And that block subsidy, that's going to decrease by 50% every 4 years. So Bitcoin reliably has to double in price every 4 years for them to just maintain the levels that we're currently at today. So this is leading to some centralized distribution of hash rate, which could potentially cause some issues, but of course, I don't think that that's a main concern. One, just the game theory involved. If you have that much computational power to 51% attack the network, why don't you just mine Bitcoin? Then you can at least earn some money rather than ruining the network. And if you did, then we could just fork, roll back, change the hashing algorithm, and then suddenly the network would be fine again. But yeah, I didn't want this to be a bearish video. If anything, the short term is more bullish, but I think it's important to start having these conversations a little bit more, these kind of long-term topics and long-term, I don't want to say vulnerabilities, but hurdles that Bitcoin really has to overcome to not just be an asset that's survived for a decade and a half, but one that's going to survive indefinitely into the future, far beyond YouTube and content creators like myself. So if you like this type of content, please let me know your thoughts down below in the comments and on social media. I look forward to reading and replying to them. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.